to you, the good and wonderful people of the true propriety. Hope you are feeling grand and all as well. Hi, and welcome to episode 1 of How to Play Like Mr. John Frusciante, who is one of the biggest, if not the biggest influence on me guitar playing wise. So, what am I going to be talking about in this series? Well, I have a list. I'm going to talk about John's tone a lot. I'm going to talk about his solo work as well as the Chili Peppers stuff. I'm going to talk about his chord work, his preferred chords, like, how he plays them. John funk, if you will, like, stuff like If You Have to Ask, Can't Stop, single note strumming stuff. His soloing and his improvisation. I'm just going to touch on a few things today, mainly chords and simpler solos. I'm not going to go heavily into detail just for the introduction, but I will obviously in subsequent videos. So, first what I want to talk about is John's setup very quickly, and I want to break it down to the individual parts I've got here. So, let's get to John tone, yes. Okay, so what I will do in this first section is I'm going to talk right at the end of the video about John's Chili Peppers setup, and maybe a bit of his solo setup, but not a great deal. I want to kind of break down his setup to the bare bones, the minimum of what you need to sound like John. So, what I'm using is my 60s Strat, my Mexican reissue. I'm using the CL120, and I've got a little pedal board down here as well, which I will show you in a sec. First I want to talk about CL120. John's tone isn't clean. I think that's where some people get a bit waylaid. His sound isn't actually very clean. It's very it's got a kind of a edge of breakup kind of thing. So, I always tell people how to get John, when they ask how to get John's sound, I always say use the dirty channel, the overdrive channel on your amp. You get closer that way, and as a result I'm using the dirty channel on the CL120. Just to let you know the settings, master volume is at 10. Wow, I wish it was. No reverb, I've got volume on 10, treble is off, mids at 2, bass is at 5, gain is at 3.5. So it's just edge of breakup, so when you really hit the guitar, it breaks up, but you can be really gentle with it as well. So that's the sound you want to be going for, and I will be demoing that sound again in a bit. Obviously, Strat. John is a Strat man. The iconic sounds he has are a Strat. So anyway, let me show you this little mini pedal board I've got down here, because I feel this is the minimum of what you need really to sound like John. And there's 2 pedals on here I feel that you need to have. If you don't have them, you will get close, but just not close enough in my opinion. So let me show you what I've got on the floor, and bear in mind, it's tiny compared to John's mothership. Okay, so I did tell you it was tiny. This is my very humble little John board. Starting on the left, I've got the Zoom multi-effects. Basically what I've got this for is to kind of simulate, A7 is just the normal kind of straight clean sound. A6 I've got a chorus, because chorus is one of those effects John uses a lot, and you definitely need some form of chorusing in your setup to get that John sounds in certain songs like Power of Equality, Soul to Squeeze, stuff like that really. So, got that. I've also got a delay and a step filter for throwaway television, but I probably won't get to them, probably won't need them. So, onto these two. These 2 pedals are a need if you want to sound like John. If you don't have these, I don't really feel you get close enough, and believe me, I've tried everything, but I always come back to these 2, and paired together they just work. And the Ibanez WH10, this is the reissue, has a horrible bypass signal, but for some reason when you run this through a overdrive channel and start breaking the amp up a bit, so it's kind of semi-distorted to say, the bypass just doesn't matter. It's really weird, and I don't understand why. But anyway, so these are the 2 pedals you need, and I highly recommend you go out and get them if you don't have them, if you want to sound like John. So let me talk Ibanez wah. I have a little dial on the side set to guitar mode. I have it all the way up on 10, like John would. Sometimes you'd back it down to 5, but not very often. It was normally cranked up to the max once you hear that crazy wah-wah sound he has. And the DS2, staple of John, again with the Ibanez, staple of John's rig forever, absolutely forever. And I've got the settings maxed out, set to the turbo mode, which is John's, thingy. I don't know if they're John's settings, that does what sounds right to me. So, without further ado, let me show you the sound I've got. Okay, so I'm going to show you what you want to be going for of that John broken up, semi-clean sound. So, I'll start with a bridge pickup on the Strat, and it's very aggressive sounding. Like if you do Can't Stop, for instance, you can really hear it's kind of really broken up. It's not clean, and with the strummy thing, which I'll get to in another lesson because it is a whole thing in itself, you can really hear how fat it is as well. It's really big sounding. And stuff like this. And if you go to your neck pickup and ease up on your right hand, you just get stuff like scar tissue. So you get that. So that's the kind of sound you want to be going for. It's big, fat, kind of distorted, not like it's not quite overdrive, but it's just enough. So when you're, like for instance, like if you do Danny California. The amp reacts a bit more dynamically to you. If like it's super clean, it won't do that. So, going to the zoom pedal, A6 chorus for soft squeeze things. You kind of want your chorus to be fairly strong, so it sounds like this. So it's a big chorus. It's really fairly fast modulation, so that's what kind of what we're going for. So you can hear the beats. And I say I've got like a delay, which is kind of just slap back, and also the the ultimate throwaway television sound, the step filter, which I'll probably get to in another video somewhere down the line. As I say, I've got loads of these videos to do. Okay, Ibanez wah wah. Set to 10 does what the Ibanez wah does. It's just big and fat as a wah wah. Right, and now there's something important I've got to say. The DS2, as you saw in the thing, is on the right side of the pedal, and it has to be there to get this. If the DS2 is not on the right hand side of a wah wah pedal, you don't get that immense that, I don't know what even that was, but you don't get that sound. You just don't. It needs to be on the right side. Left side doesn't work at all, so it always just comes there. And the DS2, as you heard, does sound glorious. To me, it just sounds like John. The DS2 has always sounded like John, and it's really important. The DS2 is the only pedal I know that's got that kind of mode, that turbo mode, gives you that mid-range bump, which is what John uses, and that's why it sounds like him. When you hear John Sawyer, you hear his pick scratch, and that comes out even more with that mid-range boosted. So, like I say, most important, chorus pedal can be anything as long as it choruses, but the Ibanez WH10 run into an overdrive channel with the DS2 are a need. They're just a need. You're going to struggle to get it perfect any other way, really. It doesn't quite, and it does sound like a fuzz pedal. I've got to say, the DS2... But them two together are just John Frusciante. They really are. Like, in all fairness, even without the chorus, those two pedals, and you've got John. Like I say. So, anyway, enough. That's kind of the sound you want to be going for. So enough on that for now. I will say I will come back to it at the end of the video and talk a bit more in depth about John's setup and this lot. So I want to talk now. I want to change over to chords and some of I want to basically start right at the beginning with kind of some of you will know this, some of you won't. I literally want to start with the basics of how John plays chords, what his favourite chords are, stuff like scar tissue, like under the bridge, like those little kind of all those little twiddly bits, which I call diddly dums, because they sound like diddly dums. Diddly dum. Anyway, I don't know what's going on anymore. But his use of the scar tissue chords as well. I need this solo work. And so forth. So, I want to get to talking about chords now, and let's start at the beginning and work our way up to it. So, let's go to chords! Okay, so, first thing I want to talk about is John's preferred way of playing chords. You will see John every now and again playing a power chord like this, but predominantly he'll do a chord like this with his thumb over the top. And learning to play with your thumb over the top is kind of key to play like John. As he does a lot with his thumb. He comes from a school of like Jimi Hendrix, and Jimi Hendrix used his thumb a lot. So if you're not used to using your thumb, it will take a bit of a while to get used to, but it really is a good thing to get into. And I'm going to use Under the Bridge for this example because a lot of people play it and they'll do kind of things like this. And that's all well and good, but it's not the way John plays it, and it doesn't flow, and it doesn't give you the dexterity in this hand to be able to do stuff like he does, like this. See, with the thumb there, it just gives you the extra ability and the extra stretch on these fingers to do what you want while retaining that bass note. So you are doing bass, rhythm and lead all in the same thing. So that's kind of like, and the only way to really get into that is just literally, just try it, just keep going at it. If you have never done it before, it will kind of get, it will be awkward to start with, but you will get there eventually, just, persevere. John's power chords are very strange. Mostly he will do power chords like this if he's doing Danny California. If it's a big rock thing, he mainly does power chords like that, but if he's doing say coming back to Under the Bridge, the major chord, because the chords in Under the Bridge are E major, B major, C sharp minor, G sharp minor and A major, and I'll get to that more in a bit. But he does his major chords like this, thumb over the top, that finger's barring the G, B and B, D, G and B strings, again all mixed up in my old age. And that first finger is on the 7th fret on your E note on the A string. So that's your first chord of Under the Bridge. If I get that finger out of the way, you'll be able to see. And that's how John plays it, and you see him in that position all the time. It's kind of a funny looking chord, but it is how he does it. So that's the first chord, that's an E major. Your next one you want to be going to is a B major. So and this is where your thumb comes in. So his thumb wraps over the top onto the 7th fret on the low E. Forget the A string. Ring finger goes onto the 9th fret on the D string. Middle finger goes onto the 8th fret on the G string, and your first finger bars the bottom 2 strings, your B and your high E, on the 7th fret. So next one is C sharp minor, which is again thumb over top, 9th fret, forget the A string, ring finger 11th fret D string, and then you bar, that finger's null and void, so you're barring G, B and E strings with your first finger. That's the third chord. Next chord is the G sharp, which is exactly the same shape, just moved up to your 4th fret. So your thumb is playing the 4th fret on the low E. Again, forget the A string. I'm killing it with my thumb. Ring finger 6th fret on the D string, and then barring the last 3 remaining strings, G, B and E, with my first finger. And then he finishes up on the A major, which again is the exact same shape as the B, which is, you know, usual thing. 5th fret, thumb. 7th fret, ring finger. 6th fret, middle finger, and lastly, E and B strings barred with your first finger. So that's the first go round. Second time around, you just don't play the G sharp. So that's the chords. Now I quickly want to talk about like the little embellishments that he puts in, all the little diddly-dum bits I'll talk about. So let's get to that. Okay, so I want to talk about the diddly-dums here, and what I mean by that are these. All these little embellishment Jimi Hendrix twiddles that John incorporates into chords, and he does it a lot, not only under the bridge, but like, you know, loads of stuff like I Could Have Lied, Wet Sand. Snow is basically made up of a different way of playing like Jimi Hendrix, but I'll get to that later on. Let's just focus on this for the time being. So what they are, basically, if you play your B major chord, like I say, like, you know, like I just explained, what you're doing basically is you hit your bass note, and then with this finger comes off, and you hammer on to the 9th fret on your G string, and then you pull off, so hammer on and pull off, like that, really slow, it's like this, and then you finish up, well, you don't quite finish up, and then you go back to the 9th fret on your D string, and then you play your G string on that note. So that whole kind of beginning phrase with that little thingy, because he doesn't really do many noodles with the E major. So again, really slow. And these little twiddles are key to John's style, really. I say he does come from that Jimi Hendrix thing. There's also another one which is basically exactly the same, but you're not playing your G string. You're not playing that that note there. So you basically, instead of going, which is, you know, up on that one, you're going and you're finishing on that B note there on the 9th fret on your D string. So. So there's two little tools there. There's that one, and these are twiddles kind of like major chords. You can also incorporate your little finger, which is very important kind of finger to use really for stuff like that. So what he's doing there is he's just basically raking up the strings like that, and just hammering on his little finger onto the 9th fret on the high E, while hitting the E and the B. So it's those two strings basically. And that's another little twiddle he does. And there's a really good exercise you can do, which I came up with, to get your little finger to go, because it will not. It's quite stubborn when it comes down to doing things like this, especially if kind of like, you know, you don't use it a lot. And it's this little exercise you can do. I'll start in A major, so the A major shape there, and you can do this. Walk it up and down the E, B and G strings, and then you can move the shape up. And it should get your little finger to behave itself a bit more, instead of going, no, I'm not doing that, I'm gonna... Yeah, I don't know either. So you know, that's good exercise to do that. So yeah, so far we've got this one, and this one. So you can kind of, and it's a feel thing as well. You've got to feel when they fit, if you know what I mean. Like, you can't just kind of like go willy-nilly into it. Like, you can hear, if I do it really slow, you can hear where they need to lie. So that's the kind of thing to, and sometimes you don't have to do them at all. Because John didn't all the time. They are just literally like when you feel like it. And that's another thing that I'll get to with John, is because he improvised a lot, because he played how he wanted and would never play pretty much the same thing twice. It's play how you feel when you feel like it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. It's literally as simple as that. So if you want to play Under a Bridge without doing the twiddles, don't do it. If you want to do them, do them. Right, now I need to talk about the minor twiddles, because they're all the major. All those ones will work over a major shape, over a major chord. The minor chord, yeah, the minor chord's a little bit different. You've kind of got a bit more of a stretch on this one. Basically what you're doing here over your C sharp minor is you're incorporating C sharp minor pentatonic scale. But I don't want to get into theory at this point in time. That's for, you know, another video, another time when I go absolutely ape on music theory. I just want to kind of get you on the right path, really, to kind of learning to play like John, really. So what you can do in here, so you've got your C sharp minor chord, and you're doing this one, which is again just so Jimi Hendrixy. So what you're doing here is you take your ring finger off once you've played the chord, and you hammer on from the 9th fret to your 12th fret, and then you pull off again. It's exactly the same principle for all these diddly-dum bits. And you finish up on the 9th fret on the G string while holding that chord down. It's something you can't really do if you're like this, but you can do it very easily if you're like this. And you keep your bass note as well, which gives the little twiddle context. Really slow, bass note, hammer on, pull off, and resolve on that note. So while keeping that bass note down. So what you got so far is this. And then once you go up here to the G sharp minor, then you go to A major. He doesn't really do twiddles on the G sharp minor because it's like a passing chord. He's not on it really long enough. But once you get to the A, you can do all sorts. You can do all sorts of stuff. But again, like I say, that little exercise will get your little finger working, and literally any note on the E, B, and G strings under your ring finger will work. So you can incorporate them as well. So that's that, really. I mean, it's hard to kind of like I try not to go extremely deep at this point in time, but I'm just trying to keep it as simple as I can. So so yeah, that's the intro to Under a Bridge. There's some of the little basic kind of twiddles to kind of like, you know, get you on your way, so to say. So I want to quickly talk about stuff like scar tissue now, like this. These chords, because they're kind of a stylistic trait of John's as well. Okay, so yeah, scar tissue. These chords are, again, really a stylistic thing of John's, really. He really made like a lot of riffs out of these. You know, his road tripping. This, he uses it in Snow. He uses it in, well, he uses it all over the place in his solo stuff, some of his Untitled stuff. So what they are basically is they're a major chord, but they're missing some of the elements. So basically, you know, forget the theory at this point in time. Just focus on playing. So basically, because if you kind of jump into theory, it can get a bit confusing, and it just takes the fun out of it too quick if you're not careful. So, first chord of scar tissue is an F major, but it basically doesn't have certain notes. So he starts with an F note on the A string on the 8th fret, there, and then he plays the 10th fret on the B string. I use my little finger, and again my thumb comes over the top, and I'll show you why in a sec, because it's kind of important. So they're the first two notes, and you can hear that's, you know, scar tissue, and it is A, B, yeah, so you can hear, you can play it differently as well, John would sometimes, but yeah, that's the first chord. And then the next one is a C major. Now you can play this two different ways, and John would play it two different ways. You can either play it with your first finger on the 8th fret on your low E, and then this finger on the 9th fret on the G string, or you can go from that F to the C using your thumb to play the bass note on the 8th fret, like that. Or, and again, use what fingers are comfortable for you. Go through all your fingers. If that's more comfortable for you, do it like that. I wouldn't really advise that. It's not really good for your wrist. Just do what's comfortable for you, really. You know, if it's your index finger or that, whatever. And the same thing for this. You know, if you're not quite there with your thumb, use that first finger. You know, using your thumb does take a bit of getting used to it and take a bit of time. So, but the key point of using your thumb, I'll get to in a sec. When you finish up, is you slide from the 8th and the 9th fret to the 10th fret. So basically your fingers end up on the 10th fret on the G and the low E string, sorry. Not the high string, it sounds like that, which isn't good. Even though it's the same note, doesn't matter. Anyway, back to where we are. So, F, C, slide to the 10th fret, and that's scar tissue, that's the riff. But, here's where the thumb comes in. And you hear John doing it a lot, and it used to boggle my mind how he was doing it. I was like, how is he doing all these twiddly bits when he gets to the D and keeping a chord shape? Simply, he's using his thumb to do the bass note. So he does stuff like this. Oh, hang on. He's doing stuff like that by using his thumb, and what he's doing down here is basically using an F major scale, which I will show you actually, because it's kind of a key to kind of noodling around in scar tissue. So what it is, you're starting here on your G string on your 10th fret, 12th fret G string, 10th fret B, 11th fret B, 13th fret B, 10th fret high E, 12th fret high E, and finishing up on the 13th fret high E. And all those notes, as long as you got that D held down, will work as twiddles for scar tissue. And they're all kind of like, because it's in the right key. Again, I'm trying to stay out of theory for this point in time. I just want to kind of get you on the right kind of lines to play like John. So you can kind of start, if you can use your thumb, it'd be better, because it's kind of a bit of an awkward thing to be doing shapes like this. Really, it's not really good for your wrist or your hand. So using your thumb, see what I mean? So you can do two different ways, and then with your thumb you can do a lot more twiddles. And that's a very John Frusciante little lick. But it's more Stadium Arcadium era, but what you're doing is you're bending up your G string on your 12th fret, a tone to that note. But it's important you get the actual bend. You don't want to go straight to the note, you want to hear it going bending up to the note. And then what you do is, either with your ring finger or your little finger, I'm not sure which one I use, it varies from time to time, it's just what feels right at that point in time. You all play the B string on the 13th fret. And then you release the bend, play the G string again, release the bend, and finish up on your 10th fret on your G string. And you incorporate that like this. So that's a really cool John Frusciante thing. Like I say, you can do the... And you can also do your twiddles. You know, they're all the same concept. It's a hammer on and a pull off. Like that. So that's all the same thing. And like I say, this chord is used all over John's stuff. And you can hear it everywhere. So that chord is really important, and that one. The major and the minor of that is very important to kind of know to learn to play like John. Okay, so that's kind of where I kind of want to stop with chords. So I've kind of covered the kind of like how John plays chords. You know, with thumb over the top in that Jimi Hendrix kind of really economic style. It's a very economic way of playing chords that way, and I've covered like the diddly dums, all those kind of things, and I've also kind of got kind of through the scar tissue chords, which again are a very stylistic thing to John. So now I want to move on to some really simple solos of John, and I want to talk about where they come from and how how he comes up with them. So to say, I'm not talking about improvisation. I just want to kind of talk about like Californication and Dosed and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay, so this little section I want to talk about John's solos. And one thing to note about John's solos is very important, is always keep it melodic. He has his moments where he goes off on like, you know, craziness, but majority of his solos are very melodic. If you take something like, you know, Scar Tissue, Californication. You know, you can't get more simple than that. It's in a clean sound. You've got Dosed as well. You know, there are so many solos. Zephyr Song. Like I say, you would improvise live and never play this kind of like the same thing twice, but that's another video for another day, because I need to explain something very key about the guitar in that video, and it's going to be a very, very, very big video. Not that this isn't going to be a very long video anyway, but... So let's talk simple. Let's use Californication as an example, because it all comes out of the key of F sharp minor, which is down here. So the scale he uses is this one. And what he's doing here is incorporating a major scale into the bottom half of a minor pentatonic, which is an A major scale. And that's all I'm going to say. Like I said, I don't want to go heavily into theory. Just know it's there and it works. The bottom half of a minor pentatonic is a major pentatonic. Now that blows your mind. I don't know. Anyway, so what John does, he incorporates notes out of the A major, which is there, with the F sharp minor. So he starts on the 14th fret on the G string, and then he goes to the 14th fret B, and then he bends up the D string on the D string on the D string. I don't know if that made any sense. I think I said bends up the D string on the D string. Bends up the 16th fret on the D string, and then releases it. And I'm doing it all in one position because mainly John's simple solos are very pentatonic, with I say with a major scale in there. Oh god, a bit of a dead fret. You know, and then incorporates starts to incorporate bits of a major scale in the next half. This is all major scale now. So that there is all major, using notes out of that scale, and you can improvise around scar tissue. I always keep going to say scar tissue. What is wrong with me? Moving back to Californication, vroom. you can use any of these notes here to create your own solo in California. I nearly said it again, can you believe it? Which is in F sharp minor. Because, you know, you can... You know, all those notes will work, and I say I don't have a backing track, so it's kind of out of context. But all these notes will work. You know, so you can start kind of, you know, nibbling around if you want with all those kind of with those notes. But I say he does a couple of little things that are really cool to mention, like the Unison Bend, which basically what you're doing is first finger is on the 14th fret. Then you take your ring finger and put it onto the 16th fret with the middle finger behind it, and you play the B, the G and the B strings together, and you bend up that G string to the right note. And you want to hear the clash up till it sounds, you know, up until they are the same note. And that comes in... like that. And the unison bending thing is definitely one of the again, thing that John uses a lot at the end of soft squeeze solo. You know, he does it there. A lot of things. Californication, first kind of little solo. There's a mistake there. Did you spot it? I certainly did. I'm sorry about that. So, my main kind of thing, you know, to start you off with playing like John solo-wise, is learn solos like Californication, Dose, Zephyr Song, Soul to Squeeze, what else is Other Side. Other Side's a good one, because it's distorted, pretty straightforward. There's a solo, like the live solo, first solo in Scar Tissue. It's Slane Castle, where he does this. Oh, where's my DS2 gone? There it is. Which is very simple, it's 4 notes. But if you want to count it, it's like maybe 5 if you consider the bends. But basically you're not moving from these 4 notes. And he hammers on to start with from the 13th to the 15th fret. Bend up. Then you release, and then you go back to your 13th. And then you start on your 12th, 14th. And then your 15th pull off to the 13th. And then you go to the 14th fret on your G. So basically that. Just, yeah, simple melodic solos are very kind of key to John's playing, really. He does have his crazy moments, which I will get to later on, and he does scale the neck a lot. But I just kind of want you to think simple pentatonic solos, and the more you can kind of like learn Scar Tissue, I did it again, Californication, Dose, stuff like that, but where it's really clean, the more you kind of like, you know, learn how to use simple kind of phrasing, so to say. So I mean, you can't get more simple than that. And it's all about serving the music as well. I mean, John would always kind of like play off Flea and Chad a lot. He would always kind of like, you know, never, when he goes off on one, I always feel he's very kind of locked in with them two. He always kind of knows where he's going with it. Like, you know, very, very cool. So that's all what I kind of talk about solo wise. I want, you know. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this first video on how to play like John Frusciante. Like I said, I'm starting off very simple, and I will, you know, as the videos go on, it will get more and more kind of like, you know, in depth, so to say. But as I say, I hope you enjoyed this first video. Quickly want to use the end of this video quickly to talk about John's live setup and how he ran it, because there's a few conflicting things I've seen on YouTube and on the internet, and I just want to kind of clear them up, really. I know what I know about his setup through reading interviews with his guitar tech, and the Chili Peppers sound guy Dave Rat and John himself. There's a great interview with John talking about his guitars and amplifiers online, and you know, there's a great interview I read a long time ago with Dave Lee, his guitar tech, and you know, really cool things with Dave Rat talking about how they did the sound for Chili Peppers. So, first thing I want to clear up is how John ran his amps, the Jubilee and the Marshall Major Plexi. Some people say he used the Major for clean and then he used the Jubilee for distortion. That just isn't true. He did use the Jubilee for a breakup, but he never A-B'd between amps. Both amps are on all the time, and the Jubilee is flat out, pretty much on 10, pretty much all the time, to keep up with the 200 watt Major. And basically, if you listen to John's live sound, if you hear that real clean kind of clunk sound that he has, that's the Major. And when you hear the more kind of gritty sound of his kind of that kind of semi-broken up clean sound he's got, that's the Jubilee. And they are literally an amalgamation. They are like cross, you know, they are an amalgamation of that's his sound, is them two amps running together. So, and what they do is they take a feed out of them two amplifiers, run into his Boss CE1 chorus pedal in stereo. So technically he's running out stereo, all his pedals are in mono. And John doesn't use effects loops. I don't, you know, his Major won't even have an effects loop. I don't know about the original Jubilee, if that's got an effects loop. I don't know if it does. But everything else is run into a front end. There's no effects loop use whatsoever. You know, reverbs, delays, everything's into a front end. Mainly uses batteries and a lot of his pedals as well, like the DS1, the Ibanez Wah, they're all on batteries. Just, you know, I think it was easier. I think Dave Lee used to say, like, you know, it ran the pedals quieter, which they prefer because he had so many pedals, so it just ran the board a lot quieter, running them on batteries instead of power supplies. So that's that. So I'd say that's the amps, both on all the same time. You know, effects just in a linear kind of fashion in whatever way they were. What else to talk about? He's talking about his guitars. Mainly Strats. He's a Strat man, John is. He always has been, you know, and up until recently where he moved away from the Strats because he wanted to play differently and started playing the Yamahas, the SG Yamahas. But he's predominantly a Strat guy, and all the kind of, you know, main hits of his 62 Strat mainly. And that, up until the Stadium Arcadium tour, was all stock. Apart from, in Stadium Arcadium, they had to change the original pickups out for Seymour Duncan SSLs, as original pickups just didn't have the output anymore. But up to that point, that guitar was bone stock. His 54 maple neck, two-tone sunburst is stock apart from the pickups, which are Seymour Duncan SSLs, and they're really set up dead high. That guitar has got more output than his 62 because of the pickups are really high. He actually bought that thinking it was bone stock 54, but it wasn't. That found out that there were Seymour Duncans in it. Gretsch White Falcon is totally stock, and that's it's a gorgeous guitar of his. He's got so many guitars, but I'd say the main ones, Telecaster Customs as well. It's totally stock, apart from on the top half of the Telecaster Customs with John, you see it. There's a bit of gaffer tape, and what that is, that's foam. They gaffer tape foam to the top of that guitar because Telecaster Customs with the binding are very sharp. And because he's a Strat guy and he plays very hard and very aggressively, it would hurt his arm. When I had my Telecaster Custom, that used to bother me. So that's what they did there. That's why there's gaffer tape on the top of his Telecasters. And you see it in pictures. Josh still has one of his Telecaster Customs. You can see it on that one. So that's that really. You know, if I think of anything else, I will bring it up in subsequent videos. But I hope you enjoyed this introductory lesson on how to play like John Frusciante. And yeah, I will see you again very soon for another video. Have a good morning, afternoon, good evening. Goodbye now.